Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Mrs. Bray Reads a Story. So today we're going to be reading the story called The Market Square Dog by James Herriot. James Herriot has all sorts of really fun books, and he's was a veterinarian in England, and he writes a lot of stories about his experiences as a veterinarian with both large animals and small animals. And this is a story that he wrote about a stray dog who is looking for a home. So this is The Market Square Dog by James Herriot. On market days, when the farmers around Derby brought in their goods to the little town to sell, I used to take a walk across the cobbled square to meet the farmers who gathered there to chat. One of the farmers was telling me about his sick cow when we saw the little dog among the market stalls. The thing that made us notice the dog was that he was sitting up and begging in front of the stall selling cakes and biscuits. "Look at that little chap," said the farmer. "I wonder where he's from." And there are the pictures. This book's got some really nice pictures. Okay. As he spoke, the stallholder threw him a bun, which the dog devoured eagerly. But when the man came round and stretched out a hand, the little animal trotted away. He stopped, however, at another stall which sold eggs, butter, cheese, and scones. Without hesitation, he sat up again in the begging position, rock steady, paws dangling, head pointing expectantly. I nudged my companion. "There he goes again. I always think a dog looks very appealing sitting up like that." The farmer nodded. "Yes, he's a bonny little thing, isn't he? What breed would you call him?" "A cross, I'd say. He's like a small sheepdog, but there's a touch of something else, maybe terrier." There's a little dog begging away at the stalls. He's pretty cute, isn't he? It wasn't long before the dog was munching a biscuit, and this time I walked over to him. As I drew nearer, I spoke gently. "Here, boy," I said, squatting down in front of him. "Come, let's have a look at you." He turned to face me. For a moment or two, friendly brown eyes gazed at me from a wonderfully attractive face. The fringed tail waved in response to my word, but as I moved nearer, he turned and trotted away among the market day crowd until he was lost to sight. He's a pretty cute puppy, hey? I was standing there trying to see where he had gone when a young policeman came up to me. "I've been watching that wee dog begging at the stalls all morning," he said, "but like you, I haven't been able to get near him." "Yes, it's strange, but I can see he's friendly, but he's also afraid. I wonder who owns him." "I reckon he's a stray, Mr. Herriot. I'm interested in dogs myself, and I fancy I know just about all of them around here, but this one's a stranger to me." I nodded. "I'm sure you're right. Anything could have happened to him. He could have been ill-treated by somebody and run away, or he could have been dumped from a car." "Yes," the policeman said, "there are some cruel people about. I don't know anyone. I don't know how anybody can leave a helpless animal to fend for itself like that. I've had a few tries at catching him, but it's no good." The memory that stayed with me for the rest of that day. It's our duty to look after the animals who depend on us, and it worried me to think that the little creature wandering about in a strange place, sitting up and asking for help in the only way he knew. Market day is on a Monday, and on the Friday of that week, my wife Helen and I had a treat planned for ourselves. We were going to the races in Broughton. Helen was making up a picnic basket with homemade ham and egg and pie, chicken sandwiches, and a chocolate cake. I was wearing my best suit, and I couldn't help feeling very smart because country vets have to work mostly in the fields and cowsheds, and I hardly ever got dressed up. Helen, too, had put on her best dress and a fancy hat that I'd never seen before. As a vet's wife, she too had to work very hard, and we weren't able to go out together very often. We were just about to leave the house when the doorbell rang. It was the young policeman I'd been talking to on market day. "I've got that dog, Mr. Herriot," he said. "You know, the one that was begging at the market square?" "Oh, good," I replied. "So you managed to catch him at last." The policeman paused. "No, not really. One of our men found him lying by the roadside about a mile out of town and brought him in. I'm afraid he's been knocked down. We've got him here in the car. I went up to and looked into the car. The little dog was lying very still on the back seat, but when I stroked his dark coat, his tail stirred briefly. He can still manage a wag anyway, I said. The policeman nodded. Yes, there's no doubt he's a good-natured wee thing. I tried to examine him as much as possible without touching, because I didn't want to hurt him, but I could see that he had cuts all over his body, and one hind leg lay in such a way that I knew it must be broken. When I gently lifted his head, I saw one eyelid was badly torn, so one eye was completely closed. The other soft brown eye looked at me trustingly. Can you do anything for him, Mr. Harriet? Can you save him? I'll do my best, I replied. Yeah, there's the poor puppy. He got hurt. I carried the little animal into the surgery. I laid him on the table. There's an hour or two works here, Helen, I said to my wife. I'm sorry, but we won't be able to go to the races. Never mind, she replied. We must do what we can for this fellow. Rather sadly, she took off her fancy hat, and I took off my good jacket. Dressed in our white coats, we began to work. Helen was used to helping me, and she gave the anesthetic, and then I set the broken leg in plaster and stitched up the wounds. The eyelid, the worst thing was the eye, because even after I'd stitched the eyelid, it was still bruised and tightly closed, and I was worried he might lose the sight in that eye. By the time we had finished, it was too late to go out anywhere, but Helen was quite cheerful. We can still have our picnic, she said. Yeah. And there's Dr. Harriet and his wife helping out the little dog. We carried the sleeping dog out into the garden and laid him on a mat on the lawn so that way we could watch him as he came around from the anesthetic. Out there in the high-walled garden, the sun shone down on the flowers and the apple trees. Helen put on her fancy hat again, and I put on my smart jacket. As we sat there enjoying the good things from the picnic basket, we felt we were still having a day out. But Helen kept glancing anxiously at the little dog, and I knew she was thinking the same thing I was. Would he be all right after all we had done for him? And even then, what was going to happen to him? Would his owners ever come to claim him? Because if they didn't, he had nobody in the world to look after him. This has always been my favorite picture in the book. I always loved how pretty their garden was, and they're having a nice picnic with the dog. Since he had been found by the police, he was officially classified as a stray and had to go into the kennels at the police station. When I visited him there 2 days later, he greeted me excitedly, balancing well on his plastered leg, his tail swishing. All his fears seemed to have gone. I was delighted to see that the injured eye was now fully open and the swelling was down. The young policeman was pleased as I said, "Look at that," he exclaimed. "He's nearly as good as new again." "Yes," I said, "he's doing wonderfully well." I hesitated for a moment. "Has anyone inquired about him?" He shook his head. "Nothing yet, but we'll keep hoping, and in the meantime, we'll take good care of him here." I visited the kennels often, and each time the shaggy little creature jumped up to greet me, laughing into my face, mouth open, eyes shining. But nobody seemed to want him. After a few more days, it was clear that no owner was going to claim him, and my only hope was that somebody else would take him and give him a good home. There were other stray dogs in the kennels, and and on one visit I saw a farmer calling to collect his wandering sheepdog. Then a family was overjoyed at being reunited with their handsome golden retriever. Oops. Finally, a little old lady came in and tearfully gathered her tiny Yorkshire Terrier into her arms. But nobody came for my little patient. Various strangers, too, came looking for a pet, but nobody seemed to be interested in him. Maybe it was because he was only a mongrel and people who visited the kennels wanted a more elegant dog. Yet I knew he would make a perfect pet for anybody. Yeah, he looks pretty sad in there, hey? A week passed before I went to the police station. The little dog's kennel was empty. What's happened? I asked the policeman. Has somebody taken him? The policeman looked very grave. No, he replied. I'm afraid he's been arrested. Arrested? I said in astonishment. What do you mean? Well, he said, it seems it's against the law for a dog to go begging in the market square, so he's been taken into police custody. I was bewildered. What are you talking about? A dog can't be arrested. The policeman, still very solemn, shrugged his shoulders. This dog was. I still don't know what this is all about, I said. Where is he? I will take you to him, the policeman replied. We left the police station and walked a short way along the road to a pretty cottage. Okay, well, it seems like a perfect time. My dog seems to want to listen to the story too. Freya's come in to say hi. We went inside, and there, in the sitting room, curled up on a big new doggy bed, was my little friend. 2 small girls were sitting by his side, stroking his coat. The policeman threw back his head and laughed. I've just been kidding you, Mr. Harriet. This is my house, and I've taken him as a pet for my 2 daughters. They've been wanting a dog for some time, and I've got so fond of this wee chap that I thought he would be just right for them. A wave of relief swept over me. Well, that's wonderful, I said, and looking at his kind face gratefully. What's your name? I asked. Phelps, he said. P.C. Phelps. And they call me Funny Phelps at the police station because I like playing jokes on people. Well, you certainly took me in, I said. Arrested, indeed. He laughed again. Well, you've got to admit he's in the hands of the law now. I laughed too. I didn't mind having the joke played on me because funny Phelps or not, he was obviously a nice Phelps and would be a kind master to my doggy friend. And there he is. He's got, our little dog has got 2 little girls to play with. It was a happy day when I took the plaster cast off the little dog's leg and found that the break had healed perfectly. All the nasty cuts had healed too, and when I lifted it down from the table, the small girls held up a beautiful new red collar and lead to match. Their new pet liked the look of them because he sat up in the position I remembered so well, his paws dangling, his face looking up eagerly. The begging dog had found a home at last. And there he is, all happy that he's feeling better and happy with his new home. All right. And there's the last picture, the puppy all happy in his new doggy bed. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, that was The Market Square Dog by James Herriot. I hope you enjoyed that story and have a good rest of your day.